You may be sitting in your place today, yet your heart feels uncertain. There are things you must do, but you are not sure you belong there. Outwardly, everything seems familiar, yet inwardly, there is distance. You are among people, but your heart stands a step behind. Many choices have already been made, and time cannot return. So even the thought that someone might see you differently feels far away. Matthew 99:13 begins with a man sitting in such a place. Matthew was sitting at the tax booth. His profession did not free him from the weight of people's judgment. He handled money all day, yet his heart may have slowly grown rigid. Was that seat comfortable for him, or had familiarity become a quiet prison? Scripture does not explain in detail. It simply tells us that Jesus saw him and spoke one sentence: "Follow me." That single sentence divided one life into before and after. Jesus did not ask whether he was prepared. He did not require him to settle his past first. He offered no conditions. He simply saw him and called him. As we linger here, we begin to see our own seat, the place that feels too familiar to question, the place where we have quietly limited ourselves, the place where we assume no one would call our name. Yet the word gently reminds us, a calling does not come to the finished person. It comes to the one who is still sitting there. Change begins not with resolve, but with hearing that sentence. This meditation holds on to one truth. A calling is not a test of qualification, but the moment grace moves first. Jesus saw Matthew sitting at the tax booth. The scene is quiet, yet unmistakable. People were passing by. Money was being counted. Interests were colliding. In the middle of that ordinary noise, Matthew was seated. He was not hiding. Yet being visible did not mean he was free. The eyes around him were often cold, and his work carried suspicion. It may have been a place of stability, yet also of isolation. Jesus did not pass him by. As he walked, he stopped, and he spoke a single sentence: "Follow me." There was no explanation, no reason given for why Matthew was chosen, no reference to his past. There was only the call. When we linger over this moment, we see the way he calls. Jesus does not present condition. He does not test qualifications. He does not demand a completed life. He sees and he calls. This declaration is short, yet deep. A calling comes before understanding and beyond explanation. Matthew did not first resolve everything before rising. He rose because he heard the call. The opening scene reveals something steady. Grace does not wait until calculations are finished. It comes while the numbers are still being counted. In the middle of ordinary work, the voice of God is heard. This declaration reaches our present seat, even if the past remains unsettled, even if the weight of opinion follows us, even if we cannot fully explain who we are. The call meets us there, and this scene leaves one clear truth. A calling is not a search for the qualified. It is a voice directed to the one who is still sitting there. The place where that call was spoken was not ordinary ground. Tax collectors worked under the authority of Rome. They gathered money from their own people. Often the system allowed them to take more for themselves. Because of this, a tax collector was not merely an occupation. It was a symbol of distrust. Matthew lived inside that structure. Scripture does not describe his personality in detail. Yet his seat carried distance. It was a place rarely welcomed at shared tables. It was a position seldom honored in the synagogue. His background shaped how others saw him. Jesus stepped into that very setting. He did not first seek the socially secure. He did not begin with those already approved. He directed his gaze toward one outside the safe boundary. After Matthew rose, another scene unfolds. Jesus sat at table in Matthew's house. Many tax collectors and those called sinners were there. The meal was more than food. A table reveals who is allowed to belong. The Pharisees noticed and questioned it. Why would he eat with such people? Their concern carried lines of separation and judgment. To sit together meant recognition. It suggested acceptance and nearness. Jesus answered with calm clarity. The healthy do not need a physician, but the sick do. He did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. This background deepens the meaning of the call. It was not only a change of occupation, it was the breaking of relational boundaries. Matthew's seat represented more than personal history. It held social weight and quiet stigma. Yet Jesus did not avoid that background. He entered it and sat within it. As we linger here, Our own background surfaces, the paths we have walked, the systems that shaped us, the labels that followed us. At times, those things feel like walls. But this scene shows something steady. Jesus does not wait outside our history. He steps into it. The call does not erase the past before it begins. It begins by meeting us within it. Then we begin to notice how the heart responds to such a call. Scripture simply says that Matthew rose. The sentence is short, yet it must have held many silent moments. He may have paused, his hand perhaps resting on the table of accounts. The words, "Follow me," echoing in his thoughts. Questions may have surfaced about what he would lose or gain. That seat offered stability. There was predictable income and a structured routine. Though criticism surrounded him, familiarity remained. Even cold glances can become normal over time. A call touches the edge of that stability. It unsettles what has long felt secure. Perhaps a quiet thought crossed his heart. Am I truly someone who can follow this voice? Yet Scripture does not record a long struggle. It leaves us with one movement. He rose and he followed. This moment reflects our own hearts. When we sense a calling, we often begin to calculate. Is this path safe? What will others think? What might it cost me? But a calling does not wait for perfect calculations. It does not move only after complete understanding. It reaches the heart gently, yet firmly. Matthew's rising does not necessarily mean certainty. He did not know the entire future. He likely did not see every outcome. Yet he recognized that the voice was directed toward him. This scene quietly touches something within us. What am I still holding on to? Where has familiarity become restraint? What feels safe, yet keeps me seated? The call does not shout. Still, it finds the deepest place within the heart, and it leaves open the possibility of standing. Matthew's step was not built on explanation. It was formed by trust in the one who called him. In the presence of a call, the heart moves from calculation toward trust. After Matthew rose, the scene quickly moves to a table. He welcomed Jesus into his house. Many tax collectors and those called sinners sat there together. This was more than a change of occupation. It was a shift in the center of his life. The seat of calculation became a table of fellowship. The place of counting became a place of sharing. A table reveals relationship. It shows who is allowed to sit near. It makes visible who belongs in the same space. The open table in Matthew's house reflected his inner change. He did not follow in private silence. He opened his world. He invited those who had shared his former life. He placed Jesus at the center of that gathering. This scene shows another layer of calling. A calling does not end with personal decision. It reshapes the direction of relationships. It changes who we sit with and what we value. Jesus did not hesitate to sit there. He did not wait until the room felt worthy. He did not require the setting to be refined. He entered it as it was. Matthew was not suddenly perfect. His history had not disappeared. Yet the presence of Jesus changed the meaning of his home. The same walls now held a different center. When we reflect on this, our own table appears. Who do we welcome into our daily space? What stands at the center of our routines? What shapes the atmosphere of our lives? A calling moves the center. It shifts us from security and reputation toward presence and grace. It gently rearranges what we consider most important. This change is quiet, yet unmistakable. It shows in what we share. It shows in who we welcome. It shows in where we place our attention. Matthew's open table remains like a declaration. A calling is not merely a new direction. It is a new center. The scene at the table quickly leads to a question. The Pharisees saw it and asked why he ate with such people. Their words were not simple curiosity. They carried a clear boundary. Who is allowed to come near? Who is worthy to sit at the same table? Who may be connected to God? In their minds, the answer was already decided. The standard seemed clear. Those who were clean could approach. Those who were not should remain at a distance. God's space, they believed, must stay separated. But Jesus' response unsettled that line. The healthy do not need a physician, but the sick do. He did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. With these words, the meaning of the table shifted. God's presence was not reserved for the flawless. It was open to those in need of healing. A calling is not a confirmation of perfection. It is directed toward those who recognize their need. Those who believe they are already well may not listen, but those aware of weakness hear it deeply. The Pharisees' question may echo within us. Am I good enough to come near? Should I wait until I am better prepared? Do I need to fix myself first? When these thoughts grow strong, we create distance. We postpone drawing near. We promise to return when we feel improved. Yet Jesus' words reverse that pattern. He did not come searching for the already complete. He came for those who knew they were not. A physician is meaningful only to the sick. Grace is meaningful to those who admit their need. This moment clarifies something steady. The call does not wait for flaws to disappear. It begins where flaws are visible. The heart is led toward humility, toward honesty about weakness, toward a place without pretense. And in that place, the call becomes clearer. Jesus' words are not mere comfort. They reveal a steady principle. A calling moves by God's standard, not by human measures. People look at appearance. We remember past actions. We judge by visible behavior. So we assume a calling must pass those tests. But Jesus begins differently. He sees need. He looks beyond outward actions to the heart. He notices whether someone claims strength or admits weakness. This principle is quiet, yet firm. The door of God's kingdom does not open for those presenting credentials. It opens for those who ask for help. Matthew did not prepare a perfect confession. He did not settle every part of his history first. He was simply sitting there. He heard the call and rose. At the table, Jesus confirmed the principle. He did not come to call the righteous, but sinners. This was not a rejection. It was an invitation. Those who can stand before God are not those who claim to be complete. They are those who know they need Him. This shifts the center of faith. We move from asking how well we perform to asking how deeply we need God. A heart trying to prove qualification feels tense. It hides weakness and compares itself to others. But a heart that admits need becomes open. Grace finds room to enter. A calling is not praise for our strength. It is God's response to our need. It comes not to reward achievement, but to meet us in dependence. This scene resets the path of nearness. Drawing close to God is not climbing upward. It is reaching out from a lowered place. A calling is not earned by accumulating merit. It is received by acknowledging need. Now the word gently descends into daily life. The calling does not remain a scene in Scripture. It meets the place where we are seated today. We begin to notice our own seat, the space where most of our hours are spent, the relationships that have grown familiar, the patterns we repeat without thinking. What standard shapes our decisions there? Are we guided by evaluation and approval? Do we choose what feels safest, or do we live from acknowledged need and grace? A calling may not begin with dramatic plans. It may begin with one small decision today. The choice to release pride we have been holding. The choice to speak less in self-defense. Matthew's rising did not mean instant perfection. It meant a change of direction. It meant a shift of center. We are invited into that same turn, not toward appearing stronger, but toward leaning more deeply. Not toward seeming secure, but toward trusting more fully. Application is not distant. It appears in a sentence we speak today. It appears in how we use our time. It appears in who we allow near our table. Weakness still remains within us. Limitations are still visible. Yet those realities do not disqualify us. They become reasons to hold grace more closely. A calling does not push us upward into perfection. It draws us forward in dependence. It teaches us to take one step while holding His hand. So the question of direction becomes quiet and clear. Are we striving to accumulate qualification, or are we learning to rely on grace? The decision may seem small, yet it is steady and real. To move one step today in trust. A life shaped by calling does not chase merit. It moves in reliance on grace. When direction changes, the texture of the heart slowly changes as well. Outwardly, daily routines may look the same, yet inwardly, a different center begins to form. Where the eyes of others once felt dominant, the gaze of Christ now becomes more present. Where one mistake once shook everything, there is now room to rise again within weakness. Matthew likely remained among the same people, yet he was no longer seated with the same heart. His center had shifted. A calling may not instantly alter appearances, but it reshapes perspective. It changes how we see ourselves. It softens how we look at others. Inner change often begins quietly. We feel less urgency to prove ourselves. Instead of hiding failure, we begin to seek help. Instead of competing, we learn to remain together. The shift may not be dramatic, but it is steady. Fear once occupied the center. Now trust slowly grows in its place. Weakness still exists, yet it no longer defines identity. The label of failure is replaced by the identity of being called. This difference lightens the weight of living. We move from pressure to perform toward the security of being held. A calling does not force us into perfection. It awakens the awareness that we belong to the one who already knows us. The heart becomes softer, judgment toward others less sharp. Self-condemnation begins to loosen. Like the open table in Matthew's house, space appears within us, room for grace to remain, room to begin again. A calling is not the process of becoming flawless. It is the journey of seeing ourselves anew in grace. Now the scene grows quiet again. The tax booth, the table, the questions all fade. What remains is a single voice. Follow me. The voice was not loud, yet it was enough to redirect a life. The explanation was not long, yet it carried the weight of transformation. Matthew did not follow after understanding everything. He did not move after resolving every detail. He accepted that the call was directed toward him, and he entrusted himself to that voice. This moment lingers with us today. From the seat where we are now, the same voice may still be heard. Even if the past feels unfinished, even if our background remains visible, even if weakness has not disappeared, the call remains present. Faith is not the proof of completion. It is the act of walking in response. The path may not be fast, but it is steady. There will be moments of hesitation, moments when calculation returns, moments when we want to prove ourselves again. Then we remember this scene: a man sitting at a tax booth, Jesus looking at him, a sentence spoken without condition, and one step taken in response. At the close of this meditation, we do not hold a dramatic resolution. We hold one quiet truth. The call is still directed toward us. Grace still moves first. So we offer our hearts again, not with a vow to be flawless, but with a willingness to follow. The call of Jesus is not a reward for the prepared. It is the beginning that grace awakens within us.